Hey, every pony.
What's up, every pony?
Tailsthehero.
JTH and Super Bomb's behind us.
He's asleep.
Had a rough day at work yesterday.
Yep. So we're not gonna bother him.
But we're going to be reacting to another Liquid Rainbow's fanfic this morning.
Yep.
It involves an OC and final scratch. It's called A Night to Remember.
I know.
If what I think happens is going to happen, I'm going to hate this OC because Final's my favorite side character.
Jeez.
Anyways, here we go. A Night to Remember by Liquid Rainbows. Trying to wrap his mind around everything that was going on might have been a little easier if not for the headache. Everywhere he looked, more lights flashed, more speakers blasted, more ponies danced wildly.
That's better.
Danced wildly to the oppressively loud music. Dusk couldn't even see why any pony would call this a party. Oh, so his name's Dusk.
Yeah.
Every party he had been to was a formal affair with suits and classy orchestra music. This was completely different. Dusk had managed to sneak his way into a little corner near the entrance, as far away from the stage and the dancing ponies as possible. The entire place seemed unpleasantly dark, with only light coming from the stage, the seizure including strobe lights and some lasers. His stupid friends had told him it would be a fun time, but there was nothing fun about this.
Well, I've never actually been to I've been to a club once, because my friend took me to a rave, and it was weird, but it was fun.
Nearby, one pony was chugging beer and shouting incoherent nonsense, while two others furiously made out with each other.
Nom 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 nom. Sucking on their lips and stuff.
It was making Dusk more than a little uncomfortable. The only good thing that Dusk could even think of was the music, despite its volume. It was the best thing he had ever heard.
Yeah.
But it was good nonetheless. It wasn't the best thing he'd ever heard, but it was good nonetheless. He never would have thought he could enjoy techno, but a brown Earth Pony DJ was up on the stage at the turntables, picking out the tracks and the party goers danced. Dusk decided to just sit back, enjoy the music, and not get himself killed by stepping onto the dance floor.
Yeah.
Onto the dance floor. He had a good view from this corner, and he could see there was a pretty large building and appeared to have 2 stories. The staircase was right beside Dusk, and every so often a couple would walk by him and go upstairs to do obvious things.
Yeah.
The entire first floor was one room, one huge, loud, insane room with a high ceiling and an uncountable number of speakers. The Dark Stallion couldn't remember what the club was even called. This was just one of the dozens throughout Manhattan.
Manhattan.
Huh. All the way in Manhattan, huh?
Yes.
Yeah. Every so often, Dusk would spot one of his friends on the dance floor, looking as much like a lunatic as any pony else. After a few minutes, when the music had changed to what sounded like a drum and bass, one of Dusk's friends came galloping up to him, a dopey smile on his face. It was Trek, Dusk's tan unicorn companion. "Hey, Dusky," he called, raising his voice over the music. "What you doing over here by yourself?" Nothing, I guess," Dusk replied with a sheepish smile. "You should totally come out on the dance floor with us," Trek exclaimed, grinning. "You won't believe how fine some of these mares are." Dusk had to admit he had a point, although the mares here seemed a little out of his league. "Well, I might join you guys a little later. Maybe. Don't take too long, numbnuts. DJ Pony will be out here any minute. That's when shit really heats up."
DJ Pony 3, you mean?
DJ Pony 3, DJ Pony, same thing. DJ Pony? Dusk asked. Trek gave him an incredulous look before smiling deviously. "Yeah, man, DJ Pony, when she gets out here, it's gonna melt your fucking face off." Dusk winced. "Well, I'll be sure to keep that in mind."
I sat up. Can we see if the cameras can see me or not? I just want to make sure, so that...
Okay, if not, I'll tilt it up a bit.
My top of my head was blocked.
There we go. Keep that in mind. "Alright, Dusk, I'll see you around," Trek said before turning and trotting back into the crowd. Dusk wasn't really sure how he had some friends with ponies like Trek. Although Trek wasn't usually like this, he must have been drunk or something. Or maybe just really excited. The music continued to blast for the next 4 or 5 minutes until it finally grew a little quieter. The ponies on the dance floor began grabbing drinks and talking with each other and the DJ, sweating and exhausted, trotting from the turntables, leaving a generic song playing. He walked off to the side and grabbed an ice cold bottle of something and started chatting with some of the other ponies standing around. The lights calmed down, as all did the partygoers. The stage was empty, but only for a little while. Lights began to dim except those around the stage, and the entire room was soon soaked in shadows again. The strobe started up, as did the lasers, and all the ponies around the room turned their attention to the stage. His interest peaked. Dust tentatively trotted a little further into the room to get a better look. The noise in the room, which was comprised of only a few moments ago, began rising. The music increased in volume, and in a flash every pony was cheering. Before he could even wonder why, Dusk saw her.
DJ Pony Tree. Vinyl.
A gray unicorn. Technically vinyl's white, not gray.
Yeah.
A white unicorn with a cocky smile on her face sauntered up onto the stage and over to the turntables. The roar of the crowd was deafening. She had electric blue hair and was wearing a pair of flashy sunglasses. This, Dusk assumed, was DJ Pony. Something about her was captivating. The sheer confidence she displayed was amazing. Dusk was embarrassed enough just being here. He couldn't imagine how nerve-wracking it would be to go up on a stage. As the sound of the crowd died, another sound started in its place. From the speakers, music began to play. This wasn't like before. The bass reverberated through Dusk's entire body, making him shudder. As the beat set in and the music blasted, the crowd went crazier than ever. For the first time, Dusk almost felt like joining them. The noise of the ponies were drowned out completely, and Dusk could only feel the music as he stared at DJ Pony. Wow. Sounds like he's really falling in love with her.
Yeah, he's got a thing for her already. I mean, I guess.
Yeah. Her movements were so fluent, her smile so real. She was in love with the music, and Dusk could feel her love pouring through the speakers around him. His body was moving mechanically and found himself inching further into the room, ever closer to the stage. Every step he made was in sync with the rhythm, but Dusk didn't even notice. He could feel nothing but the music and see nothing but her. He came to a stop not far from the stage and let himself completely go. It was like being in another world entirely, but he could still feel her presence. Whatever dream he was living in, she was the architect. Time lost its meaning. Dusk normally would have felt very self-conscious standing in a crowd like this, but none of that mattered. What had probably been hours passed by in minutes, maybe even seconds. There was a sudden transition. The music came to, what?
Must
have forgotten to add a word. Comes to a stop, as Trek would say it, face-melting finale before quieting down. A sweaty, smiling DJ Pony stepping off the stage and trotting off to the side to get a drink. The lights went up and some generic music started playing. Every pony cheered. Dusk's mind had difficulty adjusting to reality. It was noisy still, but... Ugh. Sorry, we just woke up. But mostly from the talking. Some ponies had stepped outside into the night to get some air, others got drinks, others left. But most stood around chatting, waiting for the intermission to end. Some ponies fawned over DJ Pony, but after a while she stood alone by the drink, sipping down hearty amounts of whiskey. The crowd was a little smaller now, making Dusk more comfortable, and the lights dimmed slightly. Some ponies started dancing again, and before long, the Earth Pony DJ from before had gone back up onto the stage and began playing tracks. It wasn't nearly as loud as before, but it was nice, easy to deal with volume. DJ Pony swayed slightly, obviously drinking more than she should. Dusk unconsciously moved his way over to her. Before he knew it, Dusk was standing only a few feet beside her. He instantly grew, shyer than usual. She was so beautiful. Her laid-back pose, her curvy body, and that ever-present genuine smile. Taking another sip from her drink, DJ Pony turned to him and grinned, causing Dusk to blush.
Talk to him, idiot.
Okay. Great party, huh? She asked. Dusk merely stared at her for a second before registering what she said. Oh, yeah, it's great, he blurted out. When you got up there, that was amazing. He's stuttering already. DJ Pony giggled charmingly. Thanks, she said. Dusk couldn't tell if she had intentionally sounded so saucy, but he was blushing anyways. DJ Pony was blushing as well, but probably from the alcohol. Yeah, probably. So, DJ Pony, Dusk began. Please, she cut him off. Call me Vinyl Scratch. So, Vinyl, just saying her name sounded sweet on his tongue. How did you learn to do that with music? I mean, it sounded like you were putting your soul into it. I shall scroll down a little bit. Here we go. That's the magic of music, darling. In an instant, Vinyl pulled off her sunglasses and set them aside. Dusk's jaw almost hit the floor. Her eyes were a striking shade of neon red.
Yeah.
I know her eyes are actually that darkish purple color, but forever red.
Forever red.
Yeah, and they seemed to glow even in this faint darkness. Vinyl noticed him staring and did a twirl. Whoa. Like what you see? She giggled merrily. Oh my god. Dusk blushed even harder, trying to peel his eyes from her body, but she seemed to be enjoying the attention. After sufficiently flaunting herself, Vinyl shakily poured herself another drink. Dusk tried to ignore the heat coming from his groin,
Oh, for Christ's sake.
and instead looked at her with concern. She was already pretty tipsy. She turned to him, her sharp eyes penetrating his thoughts. Want a drink? She asked. Oh, no thanks. I don't really drink. Want to end up like that guy, eh? Vinyl said, beckoning Dusk, who turned. Laying on the ground nearby was an unconscious pony surrounded by empty beer cans.
Oh, wow.
Vinyl chuckled and went back to sipping her drink. After a few moments, she looked at him again. So what's your name, honey?
Ooh.
Dusk. How romantic,
Oh my
she cooed.
gosh.
She's definitely doing this because of the alcohol.
Either that or she just wants... Either that or she's just, like, flirty.
Yeah, either it's because she's drunk or it's just because she's flirty. Her gaze was hypnotizing. Every time she looked at him, Dusk couldn't help but look back into her luminescent eyes. It seemed very hot with all these ponies working themselves out on the dance floor. Vinyl was still sweating lightly, and her cheeks as deep a red as her eyes. She almost stumbled once just from standing, but managed to stay upright, her body swaying. Are you alright, Vinyl? Dusk asked weariedly. Yeah, I'm fine. I think I ate a few too many. Vinyl trailed off and stumbled forward. Dusk moved quickly to catch her. He tried to ignore the fact that he was holding her so close to him and helped prop her up again. Vinyl blinked for a second before shaking her head. Sorry about that, Dusk, she said, sounding a little more awake than before. I shouldn't have had so much whiskey. It's okay. Anything for a good time, am I right? Yeah, Vinyl replied. A good time. Vinyl in her drunken state could only use very simple, though, processes, whatever, and her mind led her to one conclusion. So, Dusk, she began, do you want to see a really good time? Dusk wasn't one to pick things up.
I hope she's not just gonna do this because she's drunk.
What do you... Just follow me, Vinyl said, doing her best to walk straight, grabbing Dusk and guiding him along with the hoop. Dusk tried to question, but to no avail. She merely ignored him. Vinyl led him towards the entrance, and Dusk spotted Trek as they passed. Trek noticed Vinyl and gave Dusk a wink. He still didn't catch on. I guess his friend knows what's going on.
I know what's going on.
So do I, and I'm gonna hate him for the rest of my... I'm gonna hate Dusk for the rest of my life.
But I just hope she's not doing it because she's drunk. I hope there's a little bit of affection there.
I don't know. Val turned and tried up the staircase, Dusk close until it was a long flight of stairs, but they soon reached the top. It was quieter up there. Though the music could still be heard, they stood at the beginning of a long carpeted hallway, many doors and rooms branching off to the side. Two of them walked down the hall to the farthest room on the left, and the door hung open, and the room was dark inside. There were some dim lights at the top, but it took a few moments for Dusk's eyes to adjust. It seemed to be a bedroom, kind of like a hotel. At the end of the room was a bed decently sized, which Vinyl immediately started dragging Dusk towards. The gears in his head finally started turning. Dusk pulled his hoop away and took a step back. Vinyl, what are you doing? What do you think, darling? Vinyl pouted. Come on. But wait a sec. Vinyl closed her eyes and moved forward and suddenly kissed Dusk on the lips, effectively shutting him up. The music below had gotten louder, and the two of them could make out the rhythmic beating of the bass. Vinyl pulled back and smiled, still a little dizzy. Oh, ditzy. Hey, just like... Although I'm pretty sure he meant to say dizzy.
Yeah.
Dusk's mouth hung open, but he couldn't focus on closing it. He could only focus on her eyes, piercing his brain. She closed them again and leaned in for another kiss. Dustin remained stunned this time. I'll scroll down a bit again. Stunned this time, he returned the kiss, making Vinyl grin. Taking the cue of consent, Vinyl pushed her tongue past his lips and into Dusk's mouth. He jolted slightly, but didn't pull back, savoring the electrifying feel of her tongue exploring the walls of his mouth. After a moment, Dusk returned the gesture, surprised at the wetness of her inner mouth. It tasted almost sweet. The two moved over to the bed, Dusk laying down on his back. Vinyl crawled her way up on top of him, and they continued making out. Dusk was amazed. He hadn't been with a mare like this since high school. Yeah. As they kissed, Dusk cautiously moved his forehooves onto her back. She seemed to enjoy it, and Dusk worked up a little more confidence. He moved his hooves lower around her back and pulled her forward. Vinyl giggled and arched her back delightfully, inviting Dusk to move lower. He rapidly complied. Dusk lowered his hooves a little more, rubbing them along her backside and slowly moving them up again, feeling the curves of her body. While he did this, Vinyl gave Dusk her full force, hungrily snogging him. Dusk could feel his boner growing. Oh boy. After a while, Violet pulled back, huffing, her mouth coated in saliva. The music could be heard almost clearly, even from up here. Vinyl smiled in a far too innocent manner, which caused Dusk to raise a brow. Vinyl planted a kiss on his cheek, then began moving downwards, kissing along his chest, stomach. Dusk jolted when he felt her lips brush against the tip of his cock, and sending shivers up his spine. Finally, using a hoof, began gently stroking it up and down his length, making Dusk moan. Even the softest movement she made felt amazing. Moving her hoop away, Vinyl licked the head of his member, dragging her tongue downwards. All the way to the base, Dusk felt his hips wanting to buck upward, but kept himself under control. She continued on, licking every inch of his cock, slowly moving faster. The feel of her warm, wet tongue was exhilarating. Vinyl stopped at the top, wrapping the head of his shaft in her mouth, and moved down, taking half of it. She started bobbing her head on his member, falling into sync with the music, sending waves of pleasure through Dusk's entire body. She moved faster, taking it deeper with each downward movement. Vinyl moved her head all the way down, taking his entire length into her throat. Yep. As she closed her eyes and held this position for a moment before pulling her head away, she was panting, drool dripping from her mouth and Dusk's cock. She wiped her mouth clean with a smile before licking all the way up his member again. Finished with her blowjob. Vinyl creeped her way back up Dusk's body, positioning herself over him. Oh boy, here we go. Oh, are you ready for this, honey? She asked him. Yeah, I'm ready. Vinyl smiled and gave him a wink. You, my friend, Dusk, I hate you for the rest of my life now, but you are one lucky broski. Slowly letting herself fall, Vinyl could feel the head of Dusk's shaft penetrating her. As she sunk deeper inside, Vinyl moaned loudly, experiencing the initial onslaught of pleasure coursing through her. She began bouncing up and down on top of him, eager to continue the wonderful feelings. Dusk could only gasp. He couldn't believe how good it felt, her tight, warm manhood squeezing his cock. As she pounded him, Dusk began pushing upwards, matching her rhythm, which in turn matched that of the music below them. She could feel his length massaging her inner wall, stimulating every nerve in her groin. It was making her wet, which only made her thrust harder. Dang. Like we said, only doing this because she's drunk, which I hope that isn't the reason. or just because she's flirty and she likes it rough. Well, like it said, Dusk was resting his hooves on her thighs, helping to push her down with each slam, but began pulling them upwards, caressing her hips and sides. As she moaned, Dusk pulled her in closer to him, wrapping his hooves around her back again. He was doing more of the work now, pushing his shaft up into her, but it felt just as incredible as before. They were sweating now, feeling the heat of the room and the heat of each other's breath. Their heartbeats pounded and beat with the music. Dusk rubbed his hooves up and down along her back and flank, lost in her warmth. After continuing this for a few minutes, Dusk began to slow his pace. Soon he laid still, Vinyl rested on top of him, both huffing. Okay, I shall scroll down until the last paragraph we read has disappeared. Without further hesitation, just moved his hooves up her back, pushing her onto the bed beside him. She wasn't quick to react, and Dust rolled Vinyl over onto her back. He pulled her backside upwards, allowing for easier access, probably before slamming her cock right into her from behind. Vinyl let out a cry of shock and pleasure, feeling his length deeper than ever before. He pumped into her mercilessly, rocking her entire body. Her soft whimpers were beginning to grow into elated moans. She began pushing her flank up into him, grinding on his hip as he slammed into her, maximizing the pleasure they both felt. The music below was reaching its crescendo, just as Vinyl and Dusk were reaching their climax.
The game!
Dusk felt the grounds... Can you read these last two parts?
Dusk felt the ground swells raising in his balls, and Vinyl felt the quivering, raising sensation.
I didn't want to read that. I was getting a little laughy there. In sync with the music, they both reached their orgasm. Vinyl felt wetness burst from her marehood, but was otherwise numbed from pleasure. She clenched Dusk's cock for all it was worth, milking every drop of bliss that she could. Dusk groaned, feeling intense waves of ecstasy flow through his body, escaping from the head of his members. She saw stream after stream of thick, sticky cum deep into Vinyl's body.
A game!
He kept slamming into her, completely electrified with pleasure. Soon the sensations began to fade, Dusk finally pulling out and falling down beside Vinyl, who rolled onto her back, panting in exhaustion. They could no longer hear the thrum of the music, but were left in a comfortable silence together.
Fuck.
Dusk rolled onto her side, staring into Dusk's eyes, causing him to fall into a hypnotic trance again. Ugh. Son of a bitch. She giggled, snuggling up closer to him. Dusk wrapped a hoop around her, cuddling up with her, enjoying the warmth radiating from her body. They sat in silence for a long while, Dusk finally whispering to her. Do you think you'll remember me in the morning? Vinyl stared at him a long time. So Dusk was asking her that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, she replied, a grin breaking on her face. I do. It didn't matter that the music below had quieted away. For Dusk, the music was still playing in his heart. It was a beautiful song, one that wrapped him and Vinyl Scratch in its warm embrace and guided them off to sleep.
Oh,
The end.
nice story.
Yeah, that was a great story. Well, Liquid Rainbows, once again, that was awesome.
Mm.
Man, I swear, you write some of the best fan fictions ever.
His fictions are really good, yeah.
Yeah. Maybe we'll read one more later on. I don't know.
Possibly. I gotta be out of here by 1, but we got time.
Yeah, we do. Anyways, this is JTH.
Yeah, Tailsthehero, Super Bombs again. We'll say goodbye for him.
Yeah, goodbye from Super Bombs. We will see you very soon.
Yep.